I'd like to take a moment to have a nice, quiet meditation. We used to meditate for 5 minutes. Do you remember that in the old days? We won't do that today. Just a moment where we can just release our hearts and breathe together. Let's breathe together in love. Breathe in and breathe out. So just take a couple of minutes for a silent meditation. It's now time for our offering. Please give generously. You can give in several ways. You can drop something in the basket as it passes. You can use the QR code in your order of service. Or at another time, you can go to uucatskills.org. Remember, half-plate donations will be shared amongst 7 worthwhile organizations. Now, if anything exemplifies interdependence, it's playing four-hand piano. You have to share the piano bench, stay at the same tempo, try not to tread on each other's fingers, and hopefully you will end at the same time. So Bill and I are going to play 2 selections from Norman Della Gioia, written for his children, Promenade and The Dancing Sergeant. thank you everyone for your generosity. Okay. Reflection number 2. Say you drop a petal in a pond and you watch the ripples spread across the pond and dissipate, and say that your ripple meets another ripple and they intersect, crossing a topography of undulations and valleys. I've always been fascinated by an event in history which bounces off others, creating widening, intersecting ripples. An obvious example is the printing press. You know much of this, but it gets kind of interesting. Gutenberg's printing press allowed a printer to create 3,600 pages a workday compared to 40 by hand printing. But this didn't happen, of course, in a vacuum. The pond of Europe was ready for the pebble. There had been a sharp rise of medieval learning and literacy amongst the middle class, which had led to an increased demand for books. Technologies were ready. There was an improvement in the manufacturing of paper, the development of ink, woodblock printing, distribution of eyeglasses. I'm sure Gutenberg's mother was also making him sandwiches. The movable type printing press created a revolution. The widening, rippling out of information and ideas for the societies. Printing presses also played a major role in rallying support and opposition during the American and the French Revolution, through newspapers and pamphlets and bulletins, which of course brought up the issues of censorship and freedom of the press. In the early days of the Reformation, the papacy was totally unprepared for the revolutionary potential of bulk printing. Over 300,000 of Martin Luther's revolutionary tracts were printed. The printing press was also a factor in the establishment of a community of scientists who could easily communicate their discoveries through the establishment of widely disseminated scholarly journals, helping to bring on the scientific revolution. This you already knew. Now I'm departing from 11th grade history. Because of the printing press, authorship became more meaningful and profitable. It was suddenly important who said what or had written what, and this allowed the exact citing of references. The name of the author had been entirely lost for many works written prior to the printing press. And because the printing process ensured the same information fell on the same pages every time, page numbering and tables of contents and indices became common. The process of reading also changed, gradually moving over several centuries from reading out loud to silent reading. Over 200 years, the wider availability of printing materials led to a dramatic rise in adult literacy throughout Europe and the democratization of knowledge. The decline of Latin, the rise of writing in the vernacular, the people's own language, which is possibly one of the causes for the rise of nationalism in Europe. Ping, ping, ping. The publication of trade-related manuals and books teaching techniques like double-entry bookkeeping increased the reliability of trade and led to the decline of merchant guilds and the rise of individual traders. Simultaneously, expanding communication brought a flood of geographical and other information about distant people and places to Europeans. Printing could now be managed by private individuals who escaped priestly and political control. And religious authorities were finding it harder and harder to maintain the status quo. As the standardization of information grew, musical notation for recording pitch and time was standardized, and mechanical clocks for dividing the day, increasing accuracy of communication, greater precision, making it possible to coordinate human activity and efficiency. Ping, ping. There will not be a quiz, don't worry. No. So, originally the next song was written about finding safety in God's hands, but let's sing it with the political in mind. with what we do. We hold it in our hands. We're going to sing, we've got the whole world in our hands. We hold in our hands responsibility for the whole world. And this is in the spirit of a song that's written by no one and modified by everyone. I'm going to be calling out words. So the first word, it's going to be, Jeff is going to lead us. The first verse is the standard one. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. Itty bitty babies. We got the itty bitty babies in our hands. We got the itty bitty babies in our hands. We got the itty bitty babies in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. Brothers and sisters, the brothers and sisters in our hands. We got brothers and sisters in our hands. We got brothers and sisters in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. Civil rights. We got civil rights in our hands. We got civil rights in our hands. We got civil rights in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. One another's welfare. One another's welfare in our hands. We got one another's welfare in our hands. We got one another's welfare in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. The world's health. We got the world's health in our hands. We got the world's health in our hands. We got the world's health in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. The whole world. We got the whole world in our hands. 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 You're good. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
So, why am I telling you all this? You know we're interconnected. When there's a fire in Canada, we cough. And when we lived in England some years ago, every morning we would come out and there would be sand on the car, blown in from a shiraka from Africa. But I want to bring it back to the Catskills. We are moving into a new chapter, a time without a minister. It may be a short time, it may be longer. It's kind of exciting. Our congregation is strong. We are powerful in our commitment to blessed community and to outreach. We have a strong board with not one, but two presidents. We have a sturdy network of committees, and we have each other. As we say at the beginning of the service, whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. When we come together on Sunday, in person and on Zoom, acknowledging our interdependence, we are reinforcing our community. I want to remind you, we care for each other. We pick up when someone else's stumble. We share one another's joys and griefs. We complement one another's gifts. We share values and support one another in standing behind them. As Reverend Ladd reminded us in last year's service from General Assembly, we believe in possibilities and we are the makers of good kinds of trouble. Yes. We're powerful because we are independent. We have each other. Oh, you can lobby Albany by yourself, but that's no fun. And you can sing alone, but the choir has harmony, dynamic, companionship, and you can rake alone, but working with someone else, it goes faster and you get to catch up, and there might even be cookies involved. And by the way, Blue Jean Sunday is coming up on the 16th. We are a community which is greater than the sum of its parts. We may not have the impact of the printing press, But working together, we're powerful. We strengthen UU Catskills, we strengthen each other, and then we go out and do what is right. We make a difference. So, remember that elementary school hallway? We are the ones who can stop at least one of those careening children down the hall. We are the ones who pick up that last poor child, the one way back at the beginning who started it. We're the ones who calm the mayhem. We are the ones who stop the boy who is about to clock his mate. We are the ones who look down the hallway, take a breath, say, oh, it's not about me, and try to see the whole picture. Together, we keep hell from breaking loose. We are interdependent beings, and our individuality only exists through a cluster of interactions. So together as a community, as UU Catskills, we are ready to walk into our future. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal, non-creedal religion, meaning we are united, not by dogma or doctrine. No pope tells us what to believe. No synod tells us what to say each week. We are bound by our commitment to be in intentional and thoughtful relationship with one another. Can I call it love? Let's sing together one of the most simply optimistic songs of love ever written. You've got the words, Wonderful Word, but most of you probably know them. Wonderful World was written by Sam Cooke, Louis Adler, and Herb Alpert. Okay. Ready? Don't know much about history. Don't know much about biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this could be. Don't know much about geography. Don't know much about trigonometry. Don't know much about algebra. Don't know what a slide rule is for. But I do know 1 and 1 is 2. And if this one could be with you, what a wonderful world this could be. Now I don't claim to be an A student, but I'm trying to be. Maybe by being an A student, I could win your love for me. Oh, don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took. But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this could be. La 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 la, history. Biology. Wow, 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 science book. The French I took. But I do know that I love you. And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this could be. You've taken it on the road. As the Dalai Lama said, things are highly interdependent. The very concepts of we and they are becoming irrelevant. War is out of date because our neighbors are part of ourselves. We see this in economic, educational, and environmental issues. And though we may have some ideological differences or other conflicts with our neighbor economically and environmentally, we share essentially the same country. And destroying our neighbors is destroying ourselves. And that's foolish. So let's extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Go out together.